Hi folks, HR Funk here with a midweek update to bring you all up to speed on an issue I encountered when I attempted to mount my recently acquired Hilux TD-3 micro red dot optic to my IWI Masada. And I can now let you know that part of the reason that I purchased the Masada when I did was in anticipation of reviewing this sight. I wanted to get an optics ready platform so once the sight arrived it would be easy and quick to mount it up and then get out to the range and do some shooting. Unfortunately, that plan didn't work out so well. And this is really not a situation where anyone's at fault as much as it is just an explanation that sometimes different manufacturers have different specifications for their products, and sometimes those specifications don't mesh quite right. Or to state it another way, sometimes one size doesn't fit all. The issue that I ran into with the Masada when I attempted to mount the TD-3 has to do with the mounting plate used by IWI for the Masada. Now they include 4 different mounting plates with the Masada to accommodate various different types of micro red dot optics, and that's very good and very convenient. However, there is a thickness to this mounting plate. It's about 3 millimeters. And I believe also the body of the TD-3 is slightly higher than the sight that its footprint matches, which is the Trijicon RMR. So the bottom line was, when I started to use the screws that were supplied by IWI, which were 12 millimeters in length, they were too short to make it all the way down and engage the threads in the holes that were drilled in the top of the slide. Now, the holes were drilled obviously by IWI. They threaded those holes and they provided the screws to match those particular threads. When the screws that were included were too short, I tried to use some longer screws which were intended for the Loophole Delta Point Pro. Those were 18 millimeters long, and of course they were too long. So I had a situation where, because of stacking tolerances, the screws that were supposed to work, which were 12 millimeter, were too short, and the other screws that were included with this particular pistol were too long. So when I discovered all that, I contacted IWI to see if they had any other lengths for the screws that they supplied with the Masada, or that could be used with the Masada. And the answer to that, of course, was no. So I then asked them if they could tell me exactly what the screws were and what the thread pitch was so that I could try to find my own screws in order to mount the sight. They did tell me that. Those screws are, and write this down if you have a Masada, M3 0.5 by 15. The last number indicates the length of the screw in millimeters. And when I started looking for screws that would be compatible with this, I could find M3 screws with the 0.5 thread pitch, but I could not find the proper length looking online. So I started to wonder how I was ever going to be able to mount this sight, and by chance I went by the local hardware store, and surprisingly they had M3 0.5 by 16 screws, so 1 millimeter longer than I thought that I was going to need in order to mount the sight. Well, as it turned out, those screws worked perfectly. Now, as you can see, they are stainless steel screws, and they also have the Phillips heads on them, so it's not the Torx heads like you typically see with the screws that came from IWI and that you see with other types of sights as well. But these screws work perfectly. They cost me all of 60 cents in order to purchase them, and I've now mounted the sight and zeroed it. Now, I have been in contact with Hilux about this situation, and my understanding is they've already sourced screws to be able to solve this problem. But if you run into this situation, and not just with the Masada, but potentially any sight that uses an adapter plate, or excuse me, any pistol that uses an adapter plate, rather than the type of pistol that is machined specifically for a particular type of micro red dot, you might run into a situation where if the screws are provided by one manufacturer and the sight comes from another manufacturer, you might run into that incompatibility issue. In any case, I was able to solve this problem. The sight, as you see, is now mounted up, and I was able to zero it yesterday. So the next time you see this sight and pistol combination, it'll be on the range, and we'll see how it shoots. And that's the midweek update for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. See you next time, folks. And until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.